What is it like to be homeless and on access television in a particular area at the same time? It's a question I'll get a lot, but it's something that I'll address, in this video in brief, just to give people a basic snapshot. There are a lot of people out there that are noticing the rise in negative attitudes that people seem to have towards other people, regardless of how they perceive them. And there's this constant acoustic air of competition that is in the air. And all these manufactured wars of the gender wars, man versus woman, woman versus man, black versus white, white versus black, and all of this propaganda that is designed to cause people to almost be in a panic when they see people that look like they could be Muslim or that they could be of a particular bloodline that is from the countries that are typically known to be Islamic. And there's a lot of that I personally have experienced. But what I really want to focus on in particular in this video, I know a lot of people haven't asked me, but to be homeless and to go through the experience of, even though I do dress clean cut, I am olive skin, of an olive skin complexion. And there are others that are noticing that there is a rise in this type of animosity. And with the global media machine that is influencing so many people's minds, there's a lot of bad information out there. There's some truth, but there's a lot of bad information out there in regards to race relations and how things are on the planet right now. And there's a lot of groups that are being turned against each other, and to me it amounts to psychic attack. But when you're a controversial speaker and you talk about things that are geared to make people think, not to make people afraid or to sell someone something, or to get someone to buy into your particular religious theology or, specific political beliefs, I want people to really start thinking about why the world is the way that it is. And what are we doing here on this planet? And how could we be self-responsible enough to maybe get out of this type of a matrix and exist somewhere else? To evolve beyond this world and to make our way through the gates of the heavens, so to speak, and truly make it to the other side. And I don't think that we're going to do that as long as we keep hating on each other and believing the same old lies. So what I'm here to do on this planet, as well as many other people, is bring forth those truths that we as a human species need to look at. Now, having said that, my face is recognized in this town, being that I've been on cable access since 2004. I left for a couple years, but I've been back in the Portland area since March. And around the summertime, my weekly series resumed. So I'm hitting on a lot of issues, in particular how Portland is a microcosm of the whole world. We're not an island, and we can look at all these global events, but we also have to be aware of what's happening around us, because that relates to self-responsibility. Sure, there might be a mass media global machine influencing people's minds and global leaders making agreements behind closed doors that affect the whole world's population. But we are responsible, especially in these so-called progressive cities, to operate outside of the mind control box and see each other as we actually are, to judge each other by our character, not the color of our skin. So going back to our topic, what is it like to be homeless and on Access TV at the same time, and also have olive skin, also descend from the land of Afghanistan on my father's side? It's a very strange experience, and very, very, very few viewers, either on YouTube or contacts on Facebook. I'll also be sharing this on Sue. Very few of them have any idea what it's like. And most of them, most of you, don't want to hear that. In fact, it comes across as lying to you, like I'm just making things up. I want to keep this more, though, on the Access TV aspect, more than my own background and where my father's from. But it is very true that there's a lot of apprehension out there towards certain people that look a certain way. And here in Portland, Oregon, there's a lot of people that have moved here from other cities where the racial tensions are through the roof. That's why there's been massive white flight to the Portland area. Somebody commented something about the Zionists being behind the whole anti-white propaganda. Well, that's a half-truth. They're also behind the anti-brown propaganda, the Muslim fear-mongering. I mean, if you have politicians like Obama and other people that are doing things that seem to be in favor of certain groups, it's all being done on purpose to instigate, to make people angry and prepare things for the next step. That's the reality of what's going on. But when you're on Access TV and you're talking about these things and you're basically exposing the misleaders that they literally worship. Back in 2008, over 75,000 Portlanders went to see Barack Obama speak at Waterfront Park. When you're exposing the things that are taking place, they hate you for it. They genuinely hate you for it. If you are operating outside of the Democrat box way of looking at things, or the angry activist mentality that's also popular, where, you know, there's a lot of resentment towards talk show hosts and people in the alternative media, and there's a lot of nihilistic thinking out there amongst people that say that they want to change the world, but they haven't yet dealt with those angry, resentful emotions towards other dissenting alternative media voices that want to go deeper and look at how things actually are in terms of this matrix and how things really operate. So when I go outside the box and I start talking about the dark side of Portland, or the archonic agenda, or a larger perspective, people think you're crazy. And so when I walk through town, it's a constant psychic attack. When people glare at me, or they clutch their purse, or quite a few women, when they look, whether they recognize me or whether it's just because I'm a male that they don't know. There's a lot of the looking down at the ground behavior that can really fuck with someone's mind and fuck with someone's emotions, especially when they don't have family and they don't have a support group to fall back on, which is the situation that I've been in. And it's a situation that I'm surviving. I'm in a town where the majority of the homeless are suffering from psychological conditions caused by their homelessness, caused by isolation. And a lot of you that haven't been homeless don't understand what that's like. It's okay. There's a lot of things that I don't understand because I haven't been through those experiences. Although my mind is open enough to imagine what it's like, and I certainly don't have a practice of calling people liars that talk about things that happen to them. However, it's constantly happening to me. I'm constantly making things up. Oh no, it's not like that. It's all in my head. And that is all extremely insulting. So when people say, oh, the Zionists are behind this anti-white movement, well, who do you think is behind this whole push to cause greater and greater fear of the dark-skinned people? So consciousness is under attack. All the world's people are under attack, but some have been affected by it more than others. That's why it's important to have a spiritual backbone and understand it's not the color of our skin that matters, or our politics, or even where we are on the globe. It's the nature of our character and what we are doing with our lives. Again, these are all concepts that I bring to Access TV, and it provokes, I don't mean it to provoke, but it provokes a certain angry response. So I don't know where it's coming from. When someone is glaring at me, whether they recognize me from Access TV, or they've seen my YouTube channel, or they've seen me at a demonstration, or whether it's just some sort of biological imperative that that particular person may have towards people like me that descend from a certain part of the planet. When you have millions of people that are being murdered in a particular part of the planet, how can you find it okay in your mind to say, no, that type of thinking is not prevalent in our society? There aren't people out there that have tribalistic leanings, and people don't want to be called out on their tribalistic leanings. So it makes no difference to me who moves to Portland, whether they're white, brown, or whatever else, although it would be kind of strange to have aliens land and have people that are blue and purple and green walking around. I don't know how open I am to living amongst extraterrestrials, but that's another subject. But it is happening, and it is something that I am working to overcome those psychic attacks, to overcome that sense of failure, Right. Here I am. I've done all these things, and I'm living in a trailer. And yet I am still growing stronger. And yet I still go to the gym. And yet I still try to find ways to be productive with my time. And yet I still, regardless of the fact that I don't even have internet or even a way to afford internet, I still make an effort to upload videos. I'm not well respected in this town. There's too many controversial ideas I've shared over the years. And my motivation cannot be based in popularity if I'm to really break beyond just scratching the surface, but actually go deeper into what's going on. It requires a certain internal strength to where you're willing to be judged a certain way. And one has to have the strength inside to keep walking and keep progressing and keep growing and keep putting out information regardless of what we're getting out of it immediately in the here and now. Because whatever we put out there does come back to us, including good things, including negative karma, and not necessarily all in this lifetime. I don't believe that all our karma is generated and returned to us from one particular lifetime, and that's a belief that I happen to have. I mean, you see criminal networks out there profiting grotesquely with women worshiping them right now on this planet. And you also see good men out there that have broken down shoes, that are falling apart inside. Some of them have drug issues because they're using that to deal with that void inside, that void that often comes from isolation, from family, friends, in particular, someone to love and someone to love them. There's nothing more powerful than the female hand of love on a hurting man's heart or chest. I don't even recall the last time I felt something like that. Same goes for women. There's nothing more loving than being hugged by a man who doesn't want to rape you, who isn't expecting to go to bed with you, but genuinely gives you a hug without any weird energy being a part of that hug, without trying to hold on to that hug longer than the woman is comfortable experiencing that sensation. Some men like to do that. Some men like to play those games, and I don't think that's right. So love is the answer, and fear of people that we don't understand, that look different than us, that have different ideas, be they spiritual, political, or other, that is not consciousness. So the level of consciousness in Portland and the planet is profoundly toxic at this time, which means that people that have been saying that the consciousness shift would happen and affect the whole planet by a certain point in time, they were lying. Not only that, they were passing on disinformation that likely came from the archonic realms to get us to stand down when we really needed to stand up and invoke our humanity and our masculine, feminine selves. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay in Oregon. People ask me, well, why stay here if you're, going through so many things? Why don't you just get the fuck out of here? Well, that's what people say locally, or have written to me, when I've called out the darkness in Portland. They're personally offended as if I attacked them or mentioned their name when they weren't even a part of the conversation. At all. At all. At all. I'm here because I'm familiar with the entire landscape. I'm here because I do know a few dozen people. I'm here because every now and then I have a decent conversation with a friend. It may not be every day. It'll be maybe once a week. I'm here because the Access TV facility is here. I already went to Texas. I already went to Colorado. I found it very difficult to continue what I was doing on a regular basis without the resources, without the TV studio, without any structure, without any support. So that is why I returned to Portland, Oregon. I look at it as a sacrifice, sacrificing more pleasures of the flesh. I talked about that a lot in Colorado. Well, apparently, some higher aspect of myself thought it was necessary to return to Portland and live off the grid within the grid with very little money, and to continue what I started in 2004, because this is not about popularity. This is not about impressing women and saying what they want to hear or impressing other men. It's about unleashing all the fractals of that inner light within me, because in doing so, I liberate myself from the chains of this world, the fear of what other people will think or do to us, and that includes being fired from a job. That includes being homeless because you don't buy into the Democratic bullshit. And there's a lot of Democrats out there that watched my show during the Bush administration. When I didn't get on board in 2008 or 2012, a lot of those people just went away and stopped watching the show. I offended them. So when people see me, they recognize me, and they remember the things that I've said, including the aspects about self-responsibility in our relationships, and they are personally offended, and I get the bug-eyed look. You know, or people look away, or people stare, and occasionally I hear people laughing, and once in a while they're pointing. And so this is an opportunity for me to become stronger than Alex Ansary has ever been before. And I'm going to stay in this area until it becomes clear where I am to go from here, as well as when. After all, there is a time and a place for everything. I may be meant to have this experience, not to be in eternal pain, but to experience something and become stronger and grow beyond it. We can use bodybuilding as an analogy. We can use other forms of exercise and fitness and training as an analogy, or someone starting a blog and writing content and building up a following and building up subscribers because they believe in themselves. And they go beyond the fear of what other people think about them, and they focus on their light and their truth, and I truly believe that is our salvation. That's not external saviorship, external savior theology, which is popular in mainstream New Age thought, which in many ways goes contrary to traditional spiritual teachings that have been around for thousands of years. For example, looking at reality as it is instead of the reality that we want it to be. That is the number one failure of mainstream New Age thought, when they're trying to force things to be a certain way and say, no, this is how it is, and if you don't agree with us, you're being negative, which is engaging actually in psychic attack and negativity themselves, although they are so deluded by their delusions that they themselves can't see it and they don't want to be reminded of it. We need to admit ourselves in where we're a part of this matrix, where we feed into it or feed into the system, and how we can grow as individuals. And constantly flattering ourselves, constantly being in a state of physical pleasure or seeking transitory happiness, that is not the path towards greater spiritual evolution. So in reality, the controversial spiritual, political, and other social commentary that I've shared over the years has alienated me greatly in the Portland area, and that has contributed to my homelessness as well as lack of employment. Because, of course, when you Google Alex Ansary, which most employers do these days, certain things pop up that make certain people feel a little bit uncomfortable. The poverty issue, on a side note, in Portland is pretty extreme. Rents are very high, and there are very few people willing to let someone like me even stay in their garage no matter how low the temperatures get. So it's a very good thing that I have something to sleep in. So a lot of people don't think about what is it like to be homeless in a city where people know you and resent the things that you're saying. It's an experience that I'm living, and hopefully throughout this winter, moving into the spring of 2015, I will grow much stronger and move forward with the website, move forward with the YouTube channel, move forward with the Sue page, and move forward with other things. So hopefully next year, physically, I'll be in a better position to make more media than I've ever done before, including embarking on the wonderful journey of making several documentary films. Mind, body, and spirit is very important to speaking truth in a coherent fashion, because this is really about reaching other people and spreading those seeds of consciousness, not being popular, not impressing the opposite sex or the same sex, and it's not about making money. My values are very different than the values that most people hold, including most people that are involved in conspiracy research, whether they're just following other talk show hosts But my views are also very different than many other talk show hosts that do deal with some of the same subject matter. And the main difference is our spiritual perspective, why we're here, what we're doing here, and how we can get out of a victim consciousness mindset. So I'm not going to expect anything major to change in my life. Suffrage clearly seems to be a part of the journey. If you embark on a certain path and start exposing your light to the rest of the world, it causes a certain dark backlash from the matrix itself and those entities that are seeking to continue to hold humanity in a hostage type of situation. That's all for now. Hopefully this video sheds some light for some of you into what it's like on a day-to-day basis to be homeless in Portland, Oregon, and not have any local resources or much of a social network to fall back on. And it's only making me stronger in a way, because I'm using what little I have to propel forward. And I also want to be an inspiration to other people that may become homeless or are homeless, that still have the ability to believe in themselves. And oftentimes that requires one to not currently be on heroin or currently have a drug addiction. But if I can reach people that are currently suffering from drug addiction and remind them that that addiction that they have is really their unconscious way of dealing with pain and filling that void. If we can deal with those root issues of that void, of that pain, of that trauma, and heal from it, it's a positive thing, and I hope to reach those people. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.